Well, good morning, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Behind the Mic with me, Mike Avery, here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. Mad Jack's along with us over on YouTube. Good morning. How are you? Let me just switch the configuration of my Mr. microphones here. My social media microphone and my official broadcast microphone. And in about 20 minutes or so, I will physically maybe move those around a little bit. But Mad Jack, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. Two mics here in the studio. Well, actually three. Mike Avery, broadcast microphone, social media microphone. Now you know. Drinking coffee to get ready for this week's show. I just did a segment. I'm here in the studios of WSGW. In fact, just did a segment with Charlie Rood over on their morning show. I join them every Wednesday, the last Wednesday of the month. I join them to do a segment on their show talking about the outdoors. This time we talked about the Cougar Cubs, we talked about license fee increases, and we talked about the upcoming turkey season. Corey, good morning. How are you? Corey, remind me, when is your first tournament? Is it this weekend or is it coming up in a couple of weeks? Uncle Johnny, we think, Johnny, time for another road trip? You road warrior, you. Uncle Johnny will be one of my golf partners for the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Gene, good morning. How are you? Jim, heading to that shadow at Vets tonight was... Oh. Let me know how you do, Jim. Let me know how you do. Corey says it's not till the following weekend, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. Bruce, good morning. How are you? Steve, always a pleasure. Hey, Paul. How have you been? Haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. Corey, going to pre-fish all week. Good luck to you. Jerry, good morning. Thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. I'm here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. To record this week's show, I'll tell you who's coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Gene says, we have your last Angler Quest in here. What are you doing to it, Gene? I mean, it had new tubes. It was sitting at Linwood Beach Marina in their showroom with a for sale sign on it. What does that boat need to have? I thought she was ready to rock. She had new tubes on her. Very interested in knowing what's going on there. Thank you, John. Appreciate John is referring to the segment with Gina Cannell of Jay's Sporting Goods on turkey guns and the patterning of. She was on last week's show. Gina is a wealth of information. She's been with Jay's since the old Blue building in town, so she's been there a while. She knows her stuff. Cliff, good morning. How are you? Thank you, Jim. I'll look forward to it. Paul says they got 8 inches of snow Monday night. I heard about that. Robert, how about you? How are things in the eastern UP? Gene, I actually have a couple of the small Plano tackle boxes that belong to that boat. Doing a good cleaning. Oh. I wonder why they sent it to the factory to have that done instead of just those guys doing it. Dave, good morning. Hello, Sean. How are you? Sean of Lower Saginaw Charters. Is that what it's called, Sean? Is it Lower Saginaw Bay or Lower Saginaw Charters? Or is it Saginaw Bay Charters? I'm confused. And Sean, have you been doing any casting off the seawall in front of the house? Robert, good morning. Got another 6 inches of snow, he says, in the eastern UP. Crazy, isn't it? Last year at this time, I think we were running around in shorts and T-shirts, and this year I wore my winter coat in here this morning. It's coming. It's been like a temperature or a weather roller coaster, hasn't it? Looking at the forecast, it's going to finally get up into the 50s, maybe some rain, though. Morning, Bernie. Gene says not sure on that. Fair enough. Matt Schock. Headed to sunny Florida for a family vacation and a little fishing. Have fun, Matt. Have fun. Sean, Lower Saginaw Charters. No, he's been on the bay. And, Sean, and Sean Hodges, Angler Quest family fish owner, and some iguana hunting. Oh my gosh, that iguana hunting looks like a riot. Get a pellet gun out there. Oh, iguana hunting looks like a riot, and I wouldn't eat them, but I hear they're actually okay to eat. You know, another thing that looks like fun, Matt, is python hunting in the Everglades. I won't do it, but if you want to do it, I'd love to see the pictures. Dave Janis says, anything on smelt? Anybody have any smelt reports? And you and I both know, Dave, if they do, they won't be very specific. But anybody getting any smelt anywhere? Dave, good morning. How are you? Paul, Sunday was beautiful when we arrived. Sunday night, Monday, just getting nothing. Hello, Dave. How are you? First time. Well, Dave is a first-timer here. Welcome. I also do a live stream every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock called Wednesday Night Live. Gene, still nice to see the A-Keel still looking good along with that wonderful helm. Beautiful. Matt says, yes, python hunting would be fun. Cap, good morning. Right back at you. I finally got my captain's license renewal paperwork submitted to the Coast Guard. And it's very interesting because Coast Guard, they're not very tolerant. They want things the way they want them. For example, when I got all of my paperwork done and all the forms, I scanned them all and I turned them into PDFs. And then each form I put into a folder as a PDF. They're not zipped files. I just put them into a folder so they'd be easier to see on the other end. I get an email back from the DNR says, we don't accept zipped files. I'm like, well, those files weren't zipped. They were just in folders for your ease on your end. But I didn't say that because Captain John Littlefield, who taught my captain's class, says they don't have a sense of humor and they're not very flexible. So I took those forms out of the folders, resent the email with the PDFs all listed out separately, and it appears they took that one. But what a pain. Dan, good morning. How are you? Thank you, Jim, for that report. Jim Ward, how you doing? Aditya, how are you? It's so cool to see, well, Aditya, nice to have you along with us. Aditya, my son-in-law, married to my daughter Shelby, father of Bodie, the Bode man, the kid who has more personality than a 6-month-old kid should have. He turns 6 months tomorrow. Aditya, I understand you're going to join us for the golf outing this year. Excellent. Scott, Mr. Janis might want to ask his brother. Tim Binns, how you doing, buddy? Sean said we did a shakedown for the Angler Quest. It was the first trip of the year. That's what I've heard. The water is very low. I have heard that. The water on Saginaw Bay is extremely low. I'm wondering if that is somehow tied into the low water on the pond behind the house, because everything's tied in, right? Saginaw Bay, river, ditches, ponds. Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats. Nick, absolutely, we will give another Michigan Brand ham for the holidays as part of the Lenten season. MichiganBrand.net, MichiganBrand.net. Use the promo code Mike20 to get 20% off your online order. There's also a store locator button on that website, MichiganBrand.net. Click on the store locator, put in your zip code, it'll tell you what's nearby. So tonight on Wednesday Night Live at 7 o'clock, we will give away another Michigan Brand ham. And we will also give away a $25 gift card to the Lumberjack Restaurant. Now, Nick Grillo is joining us for our next Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack. And we're giving away gift cards. The Lumberjack Restaurant is a $25 gift card. So, two things to put on your calendar. The Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant coming up Wednesday, April 23rd. Call for reservations, 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. If nobody answers, leave a message with your name, the number of people in your party, and a phone number so they can get back with you. I hear we are about 3/4 or 75% full, maybe a little bit more. Okay, let me go back to some of these. Aditi is excited. Yes, so am I. Michael, good morning. How are you? Mike Critchfield, good morning. How are you? Robert says 2 to 3 feet low in the eastern UP. Isn't that crazy? How low the water levels are right now. John, good morning. Jim says the inland swamps 15 miles inland are low. Mike said, going to be ordering a ham soon. Maybe you should join us for Wednesday Night Live and you could win one. Dave Freebie, Mr. Chairman, how are you, buddy? Jerry says, the water is so low under my boat, not sure when I can start fishing. Remind me, Jerry, where you are. Because Saginaw Bay is very, very low. In fact, the folks at Linwood said they're going to have to dredge again. Jim, glad I won my Linwood Beach launch pass. Won't be able to get out of Pinconning with low water. Yeah. Tim says, even though it's wet out, we're supposedly in a drought. Well, that would that and just the water level cycles. Mike says the lake, his inland lake over there, is very low as well. It's crazy. It's crazy how low the water is. Algonac. Okay, so you're talking Lake St. Clair, Jerry? Canal in Algonac? Or would that be a canal off the St. Clair River? But okay, I got a better idea where you're at now. Jerry says, have a boathouse. Sounds like a nice setup, Jerry. Okay. I'm in the studio to record this week's radio show. So let me tell you who's coming up on this week's show. Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show is my first guest. Now, Kyle has been on the show before, but he's making a lot of noise in a positive sense right now. He reached out to me about something I was not aware of at all. Now, you know about my ongoing battle with geese on the pond behind the house, and I have come to absolutely hate geese. I think of them as big, giant, flying rats. That's all they are. I used to think of geese as a sporting animal, as a game animal, as good table fare. Now I think of them as disgusting, giant, flying rats. You spend a lot of time around a bunch of geese, and you'll start thinking the same thing. They are incredibly dirty, they are incredibly noisy, and they are incredibly obnoxious. So, having said that, the DNR is doing something down in the Metro Detroit area that I can't get really excited about. On one hand, I can, but it's not the right thing. So what they're doing is they're netting geese. And then rather than kill them and put them in a food bank or something, they're gassing them and throwing them in a landfill. Well, Kyle has the details on that. Then Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News. In our second hour, Paul Schlafly, Captain Paul Schlafly of Riverside Charters, talks about springtime steelhead fishing. Then Justin Tomei of MUCC with the latest on proposed license fee increases. And I'll tell you this right now, we are going to get license fee increases in Michigan, but it probably will not happen until the 2027 year. And it probably will not be the 40% the governor's asking for. Okay, and then Doug Ward in our third hour, Captain Doug Ward, talks about walleye fishing the Detroit River. He's fairly new at that. We'll talk about his decision to go down there in the spring, and then we'll talk about trolling for walleye on the outer Saginaw Bay, not the inland bay, not the skinny water that I love, but the outer water, the clean water, the clear water. And then, of course, we'll wrap it all up with Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. Go back to some comments here. Chris says, ideas for catching perch. Not for me, Chris. I always have a hard time catching perch. Number one suggestion is you got to be where the fish are, right? But beyond that, I've never been a very good perch fisherman. Leroy, good morning. Right back at you, buddy. Jim says the waste from the geese is out of hand. In some marinas and beach areas, they've learned where they're safe. Absolutely, they have. I did not mention swimmer's itch. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. But yeah, geese are just disgusting. They're flying vermin. And I am very unhappy with every goose hunter in this state for not shooting more of them last fall. And if we could shoot them on the pond behind the house, I'd be waylaying those things. But we can't because I'm just in the city. Paul says she'll be gone by then. Yeah, see, that's the whole thing. Wow, way to keep the antis happy. Gassing geese. They're gassing geese, and then because you can't eat them, they're throwing them in the landfill. Now, I'm not a fan of geese, but that's probably not the best way to handle a goose problem. Good morning, Ken. How are you? Thank you for your comments about the event that you have coming up. I wish I was qualified to be a part of it, but I'm not. I already reached out to Tony and congratulated him. I knew Tony was a ball player, but I didn't know the specifics. And also, you don't have to do it right here, Ken, but sometimes please private message me. What school was that at? Because I'm not sure where you guys played ball. Jordan says should be an interesting NRC meeting. Jordan, I'm still disappointed you're not on the NRC. And what are we talking about there in April? Are we talking about year-round coyote hunting and what? And also, Jordan, give me your perception on how the new NRC commissioner did on his first meeting. Did he do a good job? Robert says, tell us how you feel. I always tell people how I feel. I always do, Robert. I'm not very good at keeping my comments to myself, and I hate geese. Actually, the goose hunting season is not short, Paul. It is very liberal. It starts early and it goes a long time. Tim says even cat or dog food would be a better option. Yes. Jordan, Hoover, the goose issue isn't that far off from deer. Leave and let permits being issued and deer being shot and bulldozed into a hole. Yeah. Another thing I'm going to ask Justin Tomei of MUCC about is a proposal by one of our state legislators for a whitetail baiting license. It's not going to go anywhere, I don't think, but it's an interesting discussion. April 11th, year-round coyote hunting back on table. Yes. Sean says he put coyote decoys out this morning. Hopefully it keeps them off the lawn for a while. You've got problems there too, don't you? I have experimented with a coyote decoy in the backyard, and it has some effect. It works a little bit. I did not put the goose fence up last year because for some reason we didn't have to. I'm hoping we don't have to do it this year as well. I'm in the city, so I can't harass them too much. Thank you, John, because I have neighbors. Terry, first time at the Battle of the Z, had a blast. Most of the fish are spawned out. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that they would be by now. But actually, okay. Ken, Tony and I both played for Pinconning High School, 63 to 67. Tony went into the Air Force. I went to CMU to play ball, then to Western for grad work, then Washington University in St. Louis. I joined Tony in the U.S. Air Force. So you and Tony I didn't realize that you and Tony I'm sorry, John, have such a long history, Ken. Tony's a great guy. Ken said I heard him yelping around 1:30 a.m. Paul says that. Jim, I pass shoot geese all fall. Yeah, I keep shooting them. I saw that too, Jim. Tagging moose. Limited bull hunt. We should have a hunt. I mean, we were promised 1,000 deer, 1,000 moose in the UP by the year 2000. Didn't make that, and we're talking about a hunt. Don't have a hunt. I saw that same video on the Discovering TV show. Jordan, 25 deer regs on the table in April, coyote vote, and I suspect there will be ample discussion about the geese. I suspect you're right, Jordan. Yes, that should make for an interesting discussion. Morning, Patrick. TJ, I will be not only surprised, I will be absolutely shocked if they were to bring baiting back. And here's why. The DNR has invested so much energy into the concept that baiting can promote or lead to or spread CWD, that they will not, if they they're not going to back down in this. I'm convinced of that. Anything that does happen will be a legislative move. And I, for one, do not want our state legislature, i.e. politicians, to determine wildlife and conservation issues. But yeah, I agree with you. The DNR is never going to back down on their baiting issue. It would have to go around them. Ruben, how are things in Colorado? Jeremy, good morning. Jordan, governor wanted a woman. She got one. Becky Humphreys, 2 seats open. 9, 8, 7. Becky Humphreys 6, is 5, on the 4, NRC now? 3, 2, I didn't know that. I honestly did not know that, Jordan. Former Michigan DNR wildlife biologist, former director of the DNR. I didn't know she was on the NRC. Well, that for me would be a positive sign because at least she has a background in biology. I wasn't aware of that, honestly. Huh. All right, my friends, I'm going to leave you in some sense, meaning we cannot talk directly as we have been. I will not be responding directly to your questions. But you can stick around if you want and watch me record the first segment of this week's show. I will talk about many of the same topics that we already have, so don't be freaked out. Tonight, 7 o'clock, Wednesday Night Live. Have a good day. Welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations, and so glad to have you along with us as we continue to work our way through this springtime season. Now, I realize, depending on where you are, the calendar says springtime, but does Mother Nature say springtime in your backyard? As you look out the window right now, what do you see? Do you see springtime or do you see snow? We have been on kind of a weather roller coaster right now. As I'm here in the studio now and I look at the 5-day forecast, it looks like it's going to get a little warmer and a little wetter. And wouldn't that be, I got to be honest, the water levels are so low on the Great Lakes, the inland lakes, the pond behind our house. The water level is down. So I guess I wouldn't mind seeing a bunch of rain, but you would think with the cold temperatures and the ice that we had last winter and the snow levels, the snow that we had last winter, that they wouldn't be down to the extent that they are. The Great Lakes water levels are a very complicated issue, not one that I'm going to tell you I pretend to understand at all, other than the fact that there is a cycle. And apparently we're not on the good side of the cycle right now. Anyway, the month of April coming up now, as you're hearing this show, coming up in just a couple of days. What does that mean? It means it's time for a new license, right? April also means to me, trout season opens, right? I'm not a trout fisherman anymore, but boy, when I was a kid, the opener of trout season was a very, very special time. I wasn't turkey hunting back then. We didn't have turkeys, but we had trout. And Cedar Creek, and I'm going to call it Cedar Creek. Okay, I know it's creek. I'm going to call it crick. I grew up calling it Cedar Creek. I fished Cedar Creek, waded Cedar Creek, fished from the banks of Cedar Creek. I would ride my bike down to Cedar Creek and I would fish Cedar Creek. It was pretty cool to have a trout stream flowing right through town. And honestly, I could walk down there or ride my bike down there with a pair of hip boots. My dad wouldn't let me use waders when I was a kid. He said, you can get yourself in enough trouble with a pair of hip boots that you don't need waders. He said, I don't need you going in over your waist. Any fish you're going to catch, you can catch from shore or in your hip boots. And I get it now. He was a very smart man. Man, that was so cool. Night crawlers on a split shot above it a little bit. Drift that thing down through the holes. If I could get through the chubs, I could probably get into a little brookie. I think the size limit then was 7 inches. Maybe it still is. Not a lot of meat on a 7-inch brook trout, but we ate a lot of 7-inch brook trout. 8-inch, oh baby. And then the once every 2 year 9-inch brook trout. Oh man, I thought I had a master angler fish. But April still is, and like so many things in our state now, because there are so many other fishing seasons, it's like deer season, right? The opening day of deer season, November 15th, is not the celebration that it used to be because of all the other early openers and bow season and all other stuff. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that November 15th isn't really the first year that most Michigan deer hunters are in the woods like it used to be. Well, that Saturday opener for trout season is probably not what it used to be because there are so many other springtime fishing opportunities. Still, opener of trout season in April. Turkey season starts in April. That's the one I'm really jacked about, especially this year. This year, my goal is not to shoot a bird. What? What are you talking about, Avery? No. This year, my goal is to get my grandson Trent a bird. Now, Trent's not a little kid. He's 23 years old, and he's a hardcore deer hunter, and he loves to fish, but he's just never had the opportunity until this year to get out turkey hunting. So Trent and I are going to team up this spring, and we're going to do our best to get him a bird. My buddy Scott says we can come out and hunt his place. Scott's got a lot of birds, so I'm thinking the odds are pretty good. That's where I shot my bird last spring, in fact, on the opening afternoon. Scott will go out there in the morning, and he'll shoot a bird. He shot a bird every opening morning on his property for something like 20 years. Well, then it's opened up to some of Scott's friends, and we will be out there, Trent and I. So that's my goal: try to get him a bird, to try to get him out there. You know, maybe our first hunt will be an afternoon hunt, but I would like him to have the experience of being out there in the morning in the turkey woods, watch the woods, listen to the woods come alive, watch the sun come up, hear that first gobble off in the distance. That's the addicting part of turkey hunting, in my mind, the interaction between the hunter and the bird. You hear that gobble, you let them fly down, you give them a little call, they gobble back, and then game on. To me, there's really nothing better in the outdoors than that. We will not do a run and gun, I don't think, even though I'm going to suggest it to Trent. He's more of a bow hunter. I'm going to suggest to him that he use a shotgun for this first hunt. Hey, it's hard enough to kill your first bird, let alone trying to kill your first bird with a bow. So I'm going to suggest he's hunting with a shotgun. Even so, I don't think we will be running and gunning. I think we'll set up in the blind over a decoy and just see if we can call him in. Anyway, I'm excited for this year's turkey season for that reason. And then April also means the beginning of morel season. Now, it's usually like right at the end of April in my part of the state where you start seeing morels. Into May in the North Country. But still, April does signify the start of morel season. Okay, what else does April mean? I mentioned earlier, you're going to need your new licenses. Your new fishing licenses, your new hunting licenses. There's been a lot of talk of license fee increases here in Michigan. We will see some kind of a license fee increase in Michigan. I'm pretty convinced of that. Okay, let's do a little history on this. The Michigan legislature in 2024 suggested a license fee increase. That didn't go anywhere, got shot down. In 2025, our esteemed governess, suggested a license fee increase as part of her budget proposal, and it was about 40%. Republicans do not like that at all. Now, coming up in our second hour, Justin Tomei of MUCC will join me to talk more about this. We will see a license fee increase in Michigan. Is it going to happen in 2025? Probably not. 2026? Possibly. But more likely than not, the broad-based, across-the-board license fee increase, probably not until 2027. Now, there are some things behind the scenes at work that could move up that timetable in some areas. But it's too early to talk about those. But I'm keeping an eye on things in Lansing. What else? Springtime fishing now in full swing. Southern Lake Michigan coho. Detroit River, really crazy right now. Lake Erie, crazy right now. Saginaw Bay, pretty good right now. West Side Rivers for steelhead, pretty good right now. So there's a lot of springtime fishing going on. Some things to put on your calendar here. Our Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant in the beautiful city of West Branch coming up April 23rd. We are filling up nicely, but we still have some openings. Call 989-343-0892 for reservations. 989-343-0892. Leave your, if nobody answers, leave a message with your name, how many people in your party, and a phone number so they can call back and confirm. Also, the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing. The website is now open, mucc.org/golf. It's on the MUCC website because we are raising funds to benefit MUCC's youth camp. Who's coming up on this week's show? After the break, Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show, talking about an issue in southeast Michigan that the DNR has come up with to control the goose population. Now, you know I don't like geese. I'll tell you that right now. Geese are just big, dirty, giant flying rats, in my opinion. Well, having said that, the DNR has come up with a plan in southeast Michigan that's getting a lot of negative attention. Then Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News. In our second hour, Paul Schlafly of Riverside Charters in Manistee talks about springtime steelhead fishing. Then Justin Tomei joins me to talk about license fee increases, bait licenses, and more. And then in our third hour, Captain Doug Ward on springtime fishing, including Detroit River fishing. Why does he go down there? What does he think of that fishery? And then we'll talk about his summertime fishing. He fishes the northern parts of Saginaw Bay, the outer bay near Au-Gres, out of Au-Gres. Interesting fishery, much different than my inner bay skinny water fishing. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is mikeaveryoutdoors.com, and my email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. We'll take a break. When we come back, Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show. All right, my friends, let me catch up on some of the messages here. Oh, there's Doug Ward right there. The jury is out on Chairman Kildee. Yes. John, good morning, Mike. Thoughts on the $20 bait proposal? Pay $20 and bait 5 gallons or less. I talked about this at length earlier. I would like to see baiting come back, but I do not want it to happen because of the state legislature, and that's the only way it's going to happen. Captain Doug Ward is going to be on the show this week. Mike of Offshore 8-Count Fishing. Got to get you down on Lake Erie. I know, Mike. It's probably going to happen, but I appreciate the offer. Monkey's uncle, good morning. Jeff, good morning. Andrew got his ham from Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand. Chris says, talk about rats. He's got a woodchuck problem. Steve, good morning, buddy. How are you? All right, my friends, I'm going to end this live stream because I got to get ready to do the rest of the show. And I will be back tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live. I hope to see you then. Have a good day.